This week, several major banks lifted their foreclosure freezes. Do you see other banks following suit?
Well, that's a very good indication that banks are reviewing the documents very carefully, and now they believe that some foreclosures need to go through because having a 100% clear title is the foundation of private property rights. So I'm glad that they have reviewed the process and now they are going through the foreclosure that are valid because it needs to go through to clear off the distressed inventory from the marketplace.
There's been talk of a national moratorium on foreclosures. How would that impact the market if that were to be implemented?
If it's a government-imposed national moratorium, it will hurt the housing market recovery process. Let's look at the substance of the issue. These are homeowners who have not been paying mortgages for 6 months, 12 months, but due to the technicalities on notoriety, affidavit issues, it's been temporarily reviewed. The files are being reviewed, and I'm glad the banking systems are reviewing and correcting those mistakes. But a national imposed moratorium would be harmful because that is implying that we don't know when the moratorium would be lifted, which causes larger uncertainty into the housing market. And the last thing the home buyers are looking at is uncertainty. They want certainty as to when the distressed inventory will be clear, but as long as there is moratorium, there will be a larger inventory building, and that's very unhealthy.
What will bring home buyers back into the market now that the federal tax credit's gone?
The tax credit is gone. Right now, the economy is beginning to generate jobs, albeit at a sluggish pace. The country as a whole is roughly 800,000 job creation from January to September, private sector job creation and not temporary government jobs. And that's a good sign, moving in the right direction. I wish the job creation pace was much more robust. So job creation would be one thing. The other thing that is greatly helping is the record low rock bottom mortgage rates. Any rates that is under 5%, I will consider that as a bonus mortgage rates. Next year, I anticipate mortgage rate will be something north of 5%.
How does the Illinois housing market compare to others across the nation and now as part of the long-term housing recovery?
Illinois is very unique in terms of there's a major city, the Chicago area, about two-thirds, half of the population, and the rest of the state. Rest of the state never encountered any measure of a housing market bubble, so there was no bubble to be burst to begin with. And many parts of the state, like Peoria, Springfield, it is more job market dependent. So if jobs comes around, people would have enough income to buy a starter home. In the Chicago area, where things are a little more pricey, it's not only a job market recovery, but the mortgage rates, fortunately, it's very low. That would be also critical to get the Chicago market to recover. But broadly speaking, the state of Illinois did not have that big boom and bust like in California market or the Florida market. So it's positioned for more steady recovery and also just steady path in the housing market activity.
You mentioned in your presentation that the winter selling season will be critical. Why is that the case?
This winter season would imply that the federal housing tax credit stimulus would be about 6 months past. So given that the stimulus medicine as well as the withdrawal symptoms will be clearly over, this winter season would imply that is the housing market recovering on its own power. And if this winter sales activity matches up with other normal winter activity, it's a very good sign that spring buying season will also match up with normal spring buying season, which means that housing market is getting back to normalcy.
Looking ahead, what are you forecasting in the months to come for the housing market?
The housing market would be very dependent upon the job market recovery. It's good that we are creating jobs, but it's bad that the job creation pace is somewhat sluggish. I do see the mortgage rate steadily climbing, maybe 5.5% by December of 2011. So I think the general path of the mortgage rate would be rising. But even with those rising rates, these are historically low rates. And if we have that job creation, 1, 2, 3 million job creation for the country, I think we are in a good shape for a normal housing market recovery without any federal stimulus.